Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Everyone is looking at the EV industry. Oh wow, it's going to be huge. In case you didn't realize, the EV industry will be a much bigger industry than ICE. And I'm not even including the AV industry. These days, there really is a growing variety of different EVs available on the market. Many legacy autos now have as many electric models on offer as Tesla. But the EV industry is a disguise for the real industry here. Not quite a Trojan horse, but still hidden inside all these cars. The EV industry is distracting the true product with their flashy ads and celebrity-endorsed vehicles of the future, or EV startups reaching ridiculous valuations getting too much of the limelight. But perhaps this is not the real industry to be focusing on for the time being. Perhaps it's one that is more scarce, with a lot more potential remaining in improving technology and lowering costs. We could even call it the new oil. I'm of course referring to the battery industry. We're seeing so many new battery fabs soon opening up, especially for all the legacy auto companies. Except all of these fabs are for nickel batteries. Therefore, they'll all be battery constrained. They're aiming for something similar to Tesla's gig in Nevada. Similar manufacturing processes like the wet slurry process for the electrode preparation, and batteries to a similar energy density and possibly cost as Tesla's Panasonic 2170 batteries. Basically, I think this is the stage that legacy EVs are, or at least when these fabs are complete. Giga Nevada has a capacity of something like 35 gigawatt hours a year, even as large as it is. If it was completed, I believe it would have been the largest building in the world by footprint. It would have still been about 50% larger footprint than Giga Texas is. That's how inefficient that battery process was. Hence why Tesla still have to pay so much per vehicle for batteries if they want to use long range. Despite Giga Nevada's size, the battery capacity is only about 35 gigawatt hours annually. Although I believe Tesla have improved that somewhat and are still planning on increasing output this year too. But the legacy autos are not even at this stage yet. They still haven't even finished their Giga Nevada equivalent fabs to build their batteries that still require cobalt. But they have to start somewhere, and they need a lot of batteries. And they also need to get their cost of batteries down significantly too. However, LFP appears to be a lot easier to scale up than nickel batteries, and I think there is a good chance that Tesla is somewhat of a monopsony to CATL, in that Tesla will buy the majority of batteries CATL can make. Remember, any spare batteries Tesla get can go into energy and likely be profitable. The CATL deal is as much of benefit to CATL as it is Tesla. CATL can feel confident in ramping up their production, expanding more factories, with the knowledge that Tesla will keep buying everything they can make. Tesla have so much demand. If CATL can supply batteries and Tesla can still make a profit, it's just simply business Tesla would not have had otherwise. It is not cannibalizing any other part of the business. On top of that, we are still in very, very early days. We need something like 100 times more batteries still. Can you imagine all that money that will go into R&D for LFP over that time? When I say LFP throughout this video, I could also mean sodium-ion batteries too. Who knows, maybe even QuantumScape will eventually come out with a lightweight, power-dense solid-state battery and be able to ramp up to volume production perhaps sometime next decade. That's still a long way away though. The thing that matters really is that Elon has kickstarted this revolutionary new battery industry. The technology will arrive. Of course, by any stage it would have taken to ramp up any other revolutionary new battery, Tesla would have already dominated all their markets. But perhaps solid-state batteries might be suitable for the likes of electric planes. Tesla doesn't have to do it all. Elon just wanted to kickstart the industry, rebalancing the scales and make renewable and electric not only feasible, but the lowest forms of energy in transport. Tesla want the world to transition, not Tesla to transition the world. There is so much work to be done, it would be absurd to think Tesla can do it all alone. It's an absolutely enormous industry, transitioning the entire global energy and transport industries. It's insane if you really think about it. Tesla are just looking at it and thinking, what could have the most impact, whilst also doing it in a way to affect economies of scale and industries as little as possible. In fact, hopefully very much the opposite. But out of all the proven battery technology we have today, there is one that seems to be the best for energy storage, and potentially the best for vehicles too. I am of course referring to LFP. Unfortunately for vehicles, its energy density is not quite there yet. Although Tesla do an extremely good job getting a decent range out of them still. However, it won't take very much of an increase in energy density to achieve just a 10% range increase. We're at the stage already where about 10% is all we need to make a real difference. It would mean that Tesla could get an LFP Model 3 to a range of 300 miles. I would expect and hope that over even just the next year, that CATL alone makes some breakthroughs, and possibly, with some of Tesla's help even, enough of an improvement that we could see the results. CATL needs Tesla to grow. No one else can come close to handling hundreds of gigawatt hours of batteries, yet CATL seem like they could scale up that high. It's basically all going to be for Tesla, especially once the chip shortage is sorted. CATL wants to grow, and the Chinese government wants CATL to grow. Therefore, the Chinese government want Tesla to grow too. It all works out very well. Now, everyone seems to be talking about LFP batteries. I was saying all last year they're going to be a key ingredient of EVs, so I'm not surprised. Of course, increased battery efficiencies and lower production costs mean that before long, for example, Tesla's Model 3 standard range could have 300 miles of range, and yet the batteries may cost $2,000 less to produce. We've gone from a vehicle with about 270 miles to 300 miles of range. That adds significantly more value to the car, which in turn increases demand, or Tesla can raise prices, whilst at the same time Tesla makes an additional $2,000 per vehicle. That could be almost an additional 4% increase in gross profit margin, or more if the prices were raised too. Batteries are still a key element in getting costs down for EVs. LFP is a huge leap in that process if you can get the batteries and vehicle efficient enough. But guess what? I hope you're sitting down for this, as it may surprise you that these batteries are only going to continually come down in cost, improve in production efficiency, increase in energy density, and become far more abundant. All battery technology will do this. However, there will come a point when the improvements start to become more diminishing. For example, if you had a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack and you got the price down from $100 to $50, then that takes the battery pack from $6,000 to $3,000. Or perhaps the battery being 20% of the cost of the vehicle down to only 11%. If you manage to get the price of the battery down a further 50% to $1,500, then that would take it down to about 6% cost of the car. You see, the difference the first time the battery cost halved reduced the cost 9%. However, the next time only 5%. In other words, there will come a point where the cost of the battery will be much lower relative to the cost of the car, and it obviously becomes harder to get the cost down further you go. But eventually, cheap enough is cheap enough. If battery packs are down to just a few $1,000s and producing decent ranges, then that's huge. But the entire car needs to be designed around utilising this battery as efficient as possible. $3,000 for an LFP battery pack should be sufficient and achievable by perhaps as early as 2025, and most likely by Tesla. As we know, this LFP pattern is opening up, and it means that the entire world can add their innovation, research, development, capital, experience, resources, etc. into LFP technology, rather than it solely being for one country. No one seems to be thinking about this. This is what happens when barriers to entry to technologies are removed, such as regulation or patents. I've been mentioning this before, but the more I think about it, the more it seems inevitable. I think the likes of LG, Panasonic, Samsung, SKI, Sony, any battery company should be getting into LFP batteries. It would appear they are simpler to produce than nickel batteries. I would hope that they are already researching them. Most of them would most likely opt for prismatic form factor, I would say, as it's simpler to produce. The fact there'll be more competition from more nations means the level of LFP innovation should really start to move. This is exciting and will increase the rate of the industry. Then, when say LG or someone has hit breakthroughs that can get legacy autos ranges of above 250 miles, then there'll be some serious investing further. Currently, most legacy autos don't seem to want to offer their EVs with too low a range, namely because their EVs are expensive, and if you're paying that much, you want a decent range. But if legacy can offer 250 miles of range and save half the cost on their battery pack, then that's huge for them. It could probably save them as much as $10,000 per battery pack. It may take them until 2025 until they reach this level at volume production. Advances in powertrains would also help with this. EVs can be highly profitable, and eventually some legacy autos will also be able to perhaps profit a further $1,000 a year from subscription services too. If they had 5 million vehicles on the road, that's $5 billion profit, which is still a reasonable amount for a legacy auto. But if they can net profit $3,000 per vehicle and sell 2 million EVs a year, then that's another $6 billion profit, which is still pretty good. Why is it so good? Because it's an EV company. That means the PE ratio has gone from 5 for an ICE company to 25 for an EV company. Of course, this only applies to any legacy autos that do actually make the transition. Of course, we really look forward to seeing Tesla's own LFP batteries, which some people still seem to think might possibly be 4680. It won't be, but I really do hope a new battery is announced this year. It probably won't do a lot for the stock, but will give us a much better idea of the future of the industry. Anyway, LFP has a great future, and it only needs to improve slightly to become that much more suitable for more applications, making EVs that much lower cost. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.